Okay,
Oh, yeah.
let's get the cameras on.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I'm going
Yay.
to do that intro music again.
Hello.
Good to see you, Ozzy.
And you, Anna? And you?
And I know I am even more so because I know that you were going to watch Formula One. So thank you for deciding to do this instead. I appreciate it.
No. Nope. It's absolute pleasure. I mean, absolute pleasure.
Yeah, and then the background, we've got this is do you know what it is yet?
Yeah, I call this one. I call this one washing greens, and
It's beautiful.
it's
It's your
one of my
photograph,
favorite
of
pictures.
course.
Yeah,
When did you take
it's one
this?
of my. I took it in Yogyakarta, Jakarta, and it's one of my favorite pictures because it just kind of, for me, encapsulates the kind of images I want to create when we're on tour and traveling around the world. I mean, it's just got everything. I mean, I remember for me, I mean, it's like I remember I was on tour with Sarah Brightman, and we're in Yogyakarta. It was like these amazing temples with a backdrop to the gig. I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure I can find it. But so you had these temples, and but around the corner from the hotel was just like these kind of houses. And I was taking this picture, and then I was taking a picture because I saw this scene. I'm like, it's just perfect. I mean, there's so much going on, and didn't even realize the guy standing by the coming out and standing there to wash
Just
his
move out the
greens.
way for a minute. So you
I
can just
mean, until
see all
yeah,
of
I didn't see him like through the eyepiece of the camera, and then when I looked back, I was like, oh, there's a guy there. So I saw it in the screen to view the picture. Then I looked, I took the camera away from my face, and there he was looking at me saying like, hey, how you going? I took another frame. Do you mean so? But it's just got everything. It's just got like beautiful color. Do you mean it's a nice story? It's not something that you're gonna get anywhere else, but if you was in Yogyakarta. So it's absolutely one of my favorite pictures. I mean, just because
yeah,
it's
it's
the kind of pictures
beautiful.
that I want to take more of.
Yeah. So when you say Yogi Carter, is that you talking about Jakarta, right?
Jakarta, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah,
And all the framing. I remember we went to see an exhibition. It was ages ago, and you went into quite a few of the techniques about of photography. I don't know much about photography, and but you talking about like is it a prism point or something?
well,
There's something
yeah,
quite a lot of
you've got
boxes.
your rule of thirds. I mean, in terms of composition, I mean, and then like, that's a great way of kind of basing. I mean, your pictures on. And then you get to a point where, although you have in the back of your mind, the rule of thirds, you kind of just mess about with placing things. I mean, to try and get the story across. Do you know what I mean? And this picture itself, where the guy is, there's a line. If you like, the rule of thirds will cut through him. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of all works on that level. But then there's enough happening foreground, midground, background. Do you mean?
It's a
It's
beautiful
just
photograph. I
stories.
love
Absolutely.
that it's washing on a line, and yet it looks like a classic, beautiful artwork that could be
Yeah.
in the Royal Academy, as far as I'm
Well,
concerned.
one day, let's
It's not
hope.
just because you're doing an interview for me on my new Facebook group. I've always
That's
thought,
all
I've
good.
thought that because you sent some other ones which were the portraits as well, because you've done a lot of portraits, haven't you? And those are spectacular. Unfortunately,
Thank you, lovely.
we couldn't frame it right so that we could use it. But this one is beautiful. It's beautiful because it's no,
Thank you.
it's for today.
Thank you
But
very much.
yeah, you do a lot of portraits as well, don't you?
Yeah. I think for me, it's like a picture makes sense with a person in it. You know what I mean? It just makes sense, makes the picture make sense, gives it, you know, something to read in it. It gives it more of a story. So, and then like, the story of the face, and you mean in how you capture a person's expression in a portrait, and even within the portrait, there's a story in the person's character that comes through it. So it's like portraits and people for me just kind of work I mean in pictures, because it just adds. Because if you take this picture, for instance, it would be a nice picture if he wasn't in it, but with him in it, there's another story. It's like a story. He's back to wash his greens, because there's actually another frame of this where there's water pouring, but his look, he's like, he can see me taking the picture, but he's not like angry. He's kind of like, oh, this is nice. There's just several ways to read. I mean, just to read a picture with a person in that. Yeah, I like people in pictures. It just makes it
It's
work.
beautiful. It's a shame. It's a little. I don't know if it's this version or whether is it supposed to be a little bit dark, or is he a little bit lighter in the original?
Well, see, that's the thing. See, for me, it's like when I printed this, I printed it as I saw it there, and so that you can kind of discover things as you look at the picture. So he might be a bit dark actually, and I could like bring that up, but then that kind of gives it away too
It
quickly
gives it too much.
because
Yeah,
yeah,
gives
you
it
know,
too
you
much
kind of want to
away.
discover. Oh, look, there's a guy there. I mean, it's just like dark enough that he can kind of hide in the background, but it's light enough that you notice him. And it's almost nice to kind of let your eye wander around the colors in the picture and then discover. Oh, look, there's a guy there. What's he got in his hand? Do you mean what's he going to do? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're right though. But that's actually
Yeah,
when I was picking it up,
I like
because it
that point.
was
No,
something that
I take your point. I like that because I did discover him when I first looked at that because I didn't notice him straight away, and
right,
I
right.
like that. I like that as a part of the story that it's
Yeah,
not that he's not
and that's
immediately apparent, and then when he's
and,
there, you kind of think, oh, this is of course it makes so much sense to the photograph because this is
right.
his scene, this is his
Yeah, yeah,
house
yeah.
presumably,
Yeah,
and
and
did you
it's a
find
nice
that?
discovery. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think I don't take my photographic expertise as
No,
advice.
no, no. But that's what it should be. It doesn't it has to be an expert in pictures? It's like I mean, it's what you see in what you see in it. That's it. As far as I'm concerned, you have to be. Do you mean whatever you know about? If you know you like something, you take the time to kind of see what is there, and you discover things. The investment is paid off with the discovery. So it's you know what I mean it's nice to kind of meets something that meets your eyes, you think, oh, this is interesting. I'll look a little bit more, and then you're like, oh, I didn't see that before. Do you mean? Because then you might look at it again and see something else. That's what it's about for me.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
that's a wonderful part of whether it's photography or art or well any kind of art really is that there's layers to it and you can discover more if hopefully that there's a few more layers that you can unearth there
yeah.
usually are with any good artist which is certainly is it's beautiful. And so did you say that you've been all over the world and taken
As we
photos
have,
where people had we both traveled obviously with Duran
yeah.
and the last time I bumped into you, I think you were just on your way out, weren't you, with your camera?
I mean,
Well, not your
my
camera
camera.
crew, with yourself. It was quite a hefty bit of equipment, and where were you headed?
Yeah, I think for Times was that Times Square. Like I've always got my camera with me. One, I've either got my little 35mm or my bigger cameras like medium format. Um,
Brooklyn
I've
Bridge, I
always
think you
got.
said you're off to.
Say again.
I think you were off to Brooklyn Bridge the last
Yeah,
time I
we went
bumped
to
into you.
Brooklyn Bridge
Yeah.
and like spent the morning like just taking pictures of the bridge. But I've always got my cameras with me. I'll always go for a walk, and I'll always try and find something that's interesting. Now I'm kind of like focusing on things that I can put on my framing site and
Oh
try
yeah,
and
tell us about that.
well so I mean yeah, the pandemic has been has completely devastated touring, and and even though now it's picking up, I found myself in a position where I had to think about alternative ways of, providing an income, and I'm only really good at doing what I'm interested in, and so I thought, well, if you take photography, the end conclusion to a photograph is a frame. So then, like, if you take that, okay, well, so how do I get into a frame? You realize that actually framing can be quite expensive. So if it's quite expensive to frame something, then it might be cheaper for me to make the frame and then put my pictures in the frame. So then I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. So
Brilliant.
maybe look at getting some stuff. So I got some stuff, but I'm thinking, well, if you can make a frame for yourself, you can make a frame for other people. So then, like, the ultimate conclusion to everything is starting a framing company. So I started Curated
Curated.
Frames as a way of kind of, trying to provide an income because touring wasn't working, or because of the pandemic, and then also as kind of like something to do for the future. To take like, less pressure off having to be on tour. And then, like, when I am on tour, I've got, if like a purpose, although I'll always like to take a picture, a purpose to kind of, um, outside of touring, and then, something to do when I'm not on tour. So, just a way of, just
And when we were
having
chatting about it, yeah, because when we were chatting
absolute
about
gems.
it, and you've done a beautiful frame for me that I
Yeah, yeah,
can't
yeah,
wait to
yeah.
have back in my hands. Yeah, beautiful. I think it's actually one of your. We established it's well, the latest is that it's a Filipino It's Filipino writing.
Oh, is it? All right.
Yeah, that's the latest
Okay.
information I've got. So it's gone from Japanese to Korean to Filipino. Still don't know what it
Wow.
stands for, but
Right.
it's looking beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
hopefully we
yeah.
can do
Yeah, I think it looks
Aussie
stunning.
Aussie interview part two in your studio with your creative. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it looks gorgeous. And when we were chatting about that, you got just as excited. Well, I don't know whether, but you seem really fired up about this new business venture.
I
And,
absolutely. I
and you
mean,
get and really like that artistic take on the frames as well. I got just as much a sense of passion when you were talking about frames and when you're talking about your photos.
awesome. That's good to know because good to hear because I absolutely love it. And it's if in the mind it might sound like a bit of a departure from traveling the world with pop stars to being at home making picture frames, but to me it's like I absolutely love it. Do you mean I absolutely love it? It's like I could do it all day long because it's a buzz. Do you mean it's a real buzz? And not just like making frames for myself, but making frames for whoever. Do you mean the act of kind of like turning something from a print from just a piece of paper you're holding to an object. I mean,
It
in a frame.
transforms it.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely does. You mean, and it's like that. That transformation, kind of seeing it and being a part of it, and then having it on a wall, and people. So you might have a picture that people have seen, and they're like, "Oh, that's a nice picture," but the second you put it in a frame, they're like, "That looks amazing." Do you mean it's like it's the
Absolutely,
same
that's exactly what
picture?
happened with the one that you did for me. I mean, it's a lovely wall hanging. When I saw it in the frame that you've done, it looks really beautiful. It can be underestimated how much a really good frame can
Yeah,
just add to the whole artistic integrity of a work.
yeah.
It really,
It takes it from
yeah.
being like I say, a piece of paper or the material that it is to an object that you're hanging on a wall. Because if you think about hanging something on your wall, you're like, it takes pride of place on your wall. So it's like for it to do that, it's got to please you somehow. Do you mean so like so even if you hang it without a frame, you're like, that looks really good on my wall. But the second you get it framed, like that looks amazing. You kind of it's like because it's presented to you to look at. I mean, it's got the border, it's got a frame. Do you mean it's presented in the way you're like, I want to look at this because if the proportions are right from the object and the frame, I mean your eye is drawn to look at it. Do you mean so? I
And
mean,
you've worked with quite a few. You've done quite a few for. So at the curated frames, is that because you frame other people's work as well?
yeah. So what it
What's
is? So
curated mean again? What is that? What's the
curated. So like it's like
yeah
chosen for you, curated, like, as in
yeah
to choose. So it's like so what I again in thinking about what I'd like to do, the natural extension of it all is that if I can do it for myself, I can do
custodian?
it for. Say again.
I just check custodian. And
Oh, there you go.
a curated is custodian of a collection.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. So it's like I figured that if I can do it for me, why couldn't I do it for anybody else? And then there was obviously then I
So
was
you're
like,
doing
okay,
that.
well, yeah, yeah. So what I have on the site, I got like Jamie Goodsell, who is quite an interesting story in itself. Is like I was out in Nashville on tour with Lily Allen and walking around as I do, taking pictures. And then I'm taking pictures like across the road from the gig. There was this, I'm just walking around with my big Mamiya camera, which is an interesting thing in itself because it's an old film camera. It's a bulky thing, so it attracts attention. So this guy came up to me and says, like, "Do you shoot film?" And I'm like, "I'm in America." Like this guy's come up to me. It's like, "That's unusual." Do you know what I mean? Because people just leave you alone in America, right? So I'm like, "Yeah, it's a film camera." He's like, "Cool. I take pictures on film too." And he happened to be the guy who was the house photographer for Third Man Records, Jack White.
Oh my
So
goodness.
right, so we got talking, and he was really cool. Do you mean? And we both had obviously photography in common, and we was
And
like we
music.
exchanged and music, yeah, yeah, and music. and we exchanged like contact details, and we've been in contact ever since. And then I came up with this idea of curated frames and being able to print and frame other people's work. So I said to him, would you mind coming on board and being part of Curated Frames? And he was like, yeah, love to. So
And so
he's
you,
part of it.
so he's part of it, and so yeah, and you share photography and music. And have you framed any other artists? Did he talk about have you photographed any artists? And well, you did my first album,
Yep.
didn't you? Yeah, and you've got some beautiful photographs. There's still one that we're trying to locate, isn't there? That's a really lovely one.
Yeah, it is a
But it's
beautiful one.
yeah, but you did I think the track it got used on Blow, and there were two. I used two of yours on my first album. Yeah, that was a great photo session. And then, but what other have you? Well, I know you're doing a lot of in situ all over the world. Have you photographed any other artists?
I mean, I've always got my camera with me, and it's difficult when you're on tour to like photograph the people that you're working with.
Take any of the band?
Yeah, I mean, I've taken some of like the boys
Have
because
you?
because they're because of my time of being involved with Duran, it's been easier to kind of approach them with a camera. They see it, they know Ozzie, they know Ozzie's always taking pictures. So if I stand there like this, they'll give me a picture. So I've been fortunate on that level to have some pictures, which I'm
How
looking
did they
forward
come
to.
out?
They look amazing, actually. I really loved them. I mean, I do. I think they're the ones that I think work for that I'm going to frame, which they signed for me as well. Was they were taken in 2011, I think it was, at the Ritz rehearsal, and they look like they they look really good. They look really good. I'm really pleased with them, and especially at a point in 2011 where I was still kind of unsure about taking pictures full stop, especially with this massive Mamiya 6.7 camera, RZ 6.7. It's huge. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not a small guy, and it's a big camera, so it's like, it's huge. So
Armed with
but
your
no, they
camera,
came
like
out really well.
ammunition.
So it's easy to
Take
take
all of
pictures of.
them?
So again,
Did you take all of the band or just a couple of them?
I think I've still got to take a picture of Roger, but I've got like Simon, Nick, and JT, and but no, they I do like those images, and they'll definitely take pride of place on my wall. To me,
Oh,
I haven't framed them
I don't
just
know if
yet.
no, I don't think I've seen them. Although I think I saw some. Maybe it was that same tour because you took some of the crew as well, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was
Chopper,
it
I
the
think Chopper
same?
got a picture then,
Yeah, was it the
but
same
I've got
tour?
second. Was
When
it say?
I think it was the same tour because I think I saw some of the photographs from that tour
Okay.
when you were taking quite a few people in the band
Yeah.
well on the whole tour, not just the band. You took.
I mean, I'll find it, and part two, I'll try and find what the boys signed for me, and then I'll show you that because
Oh, that'd be cool.
but like yeah, I'm always
So would you say you preference photography over, or do you have enough time to do? Well, I saw you because you were doing photography when you in New York, but for you, it's really become very much about curated frames and also representing other photographers with your
it's
business as well. Because you're are you showcasing their work for the frames, or are you
yes.
actually representing them as? Well, I guess that is representing them.
Well, I
That's
mean, my thing is kind of 50-50 in terms of like, excuse me, they sell the print, I sell the frame. That's how that works. But I mean, I definitely want to I want it to be a platform for photographers to say, okay, well, look, I'm selling this print. You sell it. You make the frame because it's all bespoke. It's not like it's not like off the shelf. It's all like
no,
handmade, bespoke
I know.
frames
It's
and mats and
beautiful.
everything. It's all handmade. So you mean to have like a quality product where because there's so many. We all love photography. It's like you think, oh, that's a beautiful image. That's a beautiful image. But then to take the step to kind of sell that piece of work, you're like, oh, I'm not sure. But there's so many photographers who do great work. It's like,
Yeah.
well, why shouldn't that be available for someone to buy? Like washing greens now. It's like I think it's a great picture. I'd love to see it on somebody's wall because I think it's. I mean, it works as
It's
a.
beautiful. Yeah,
So it's
it's
like,
really
and I'm not
beautiful.
the only one who can. Create beautiful images. So it's like, I think there's got to be, a marketplace for original quality images framed. So I'm like,
And how do you see yourself growing the business as far as yeah, what are the challenges you face, and what is it that you want to find out, so that I'm looking to include content where I can research and think of content that can support people in this group. What kind of things do you think, right, I need to find out about that, I don't know about this yet, I don't know how to do that in terms of developing your business?
Yeah, there's so many things that you have to kind of keep constantly changing caps and trying to not necessarily master or try and get us, I mean, really good at. You mean so marketing, SEO. Do you mean just everything. There's so many different things that you could spend weeks on each of them, and and kind of like to learn it. So if I had the resources, you'd have a person dealing with the SEO stuff, a person dealing with marketing, a person dealing with manufacture. It's like there's
an independent, as an independent creator, doing it. Yeah, there is. You kind of have to put a few different hats on, don't you? And be those different, play those different roles. And so that's it's really interesting to find out what's next for you as far as where do you feel, because I know that you've got a website for curated frames, don't you? What do you feel is you can't, obviously, like you said, you can be so many as an independent, having your independent creative business, there can be so many different roles to play, but what do you think? Often I will take the next what feels like the next right step, because there are so many steps. What's the next, what would you say is the next right step for you in terms of your business development with your creative business?
I think the next right step is marketing, most definitely marketing, and like understanding more about targeting markets, developing markets. And you watch things on YouTube and books, and it's like so just to develop the tunnel, however it's described, in terms of having these funnels that produce from interest to acquiring your product, and it's taking them through that.
So the steps that take you through that process.
So like, if you have somebody who's interested, you take them through every stage of the transaction to the successful completion, which is then purchasing something. So I think
well, I was a very happy customer, Ozzie. That was a very speedy version. I was like, you've got a framing business and you take brilliant photos. Not that it was, it was one that I had already. Although I hope to have one of yours in the future, if I can still afford it by the time I get round to buying one. That would be amazing. So should we do interview part 2 in your studio?
Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
If you're up for that, and it's great. It's great to hear. It's really it's brilliant to hear all about your business, and thanks for sharing such a gorgeous photo. I hope I haven't ruined it. I've been bobbing around while I've been trying to stay down here, so that people can experience the beauty of this. It's a really, really lovely photo.
Thank you very much.
And so we'll do to be continued then, shall we?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so get back to Formula One. I hope that we haven't been chatting on too long, so that
no. Much prefer this to Formula One. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Well, good to see you, Ozzie, and I'll see you soon. We've got some gigs coming up, haven't we?
Sounds good. Yep.
All right. All the best. Bye.
Bye. Ciao.